Okay, so we are live.
Yeah, we are. So, welcome to Movie Innerstandings with Achim. Well, I'm Akilo, and that's the Menyelek. You know what I'm talking about? And we on Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. You know what I'm talking about? So, we about to get it. So,
Yep. Yeah, finally got to watch it.
yeah, well, yeah. Even my friends can can do that, and they love this show. You know, so yeah, you finally got me to watch it.
Yeah, but it's a really good show. I've seen, I think at this point I've only missed like one or two specials or movies, but I've watched the first series that came out. I want to say original series, but it was the first series that came out in the early 2000s.
Hmm.
And it wasn't a totally faithful adaptation to the story. Because peace to everyone in the space, by the way, peace Chief Yuya, peace, Precious. But yeah, the first one that came up wasn't really a faithful adaptation of the manga, of the source material, mainly because the manga wasn't finished yet when they started animating it, and the anime caught up to it, and like they had to keep it going, so they sort of filled in some blanks. You know what I mean? So there's
Hmm.
certain points where the story diverges, and they took some creative licenses, which were they were still cool, at the time because the show wasn't done. And then I saw Brotherhood, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? And they even leave some stuff out, but it's the most faithful adaptation thus far. The movie was all right. We talked about it. I like
Yeah.
because of the amount of time they had, it was all right. You know what I mean?
I told you I can say the same thing about live action Attack on Titan, and I won't. You know.
Yeah. At least it wasn't like Avatar: The Last Airbender. So you got the highs and lows.
Yeah, you gotta take the good with the bad. I mean, you really gotta take the good and bad when it comes to anime live action. You know, but I'd rather watch the Bleach live action than the actual Bleach. It's like, oh, this is good. So but I'm still not watching that show. You know.
Yeah. Peace to Manaya. Peace to our new radio. I'm assuming that's Sister Sham the Joy. But yeah,
DJ
they also
Shmoney.
they also had two movies, two animated movies. One of them was The Conqueror of Shambhala, and that one was like a follow up to the first series. It was like a follow up to that. And the other one, which I actually just heard about today, I didn't know exists. I can't even remember the name, but there's like other animated movies to go with it. But yeah. So what's your first take on it? Seeing that this is the first time watching it for the look.
Well, I mean, it gets deep in a lot of things. Um, I mean, alchemy for one, and then the law of transmutation.
The law of equivalent exchange.
Equivalent
Yeah.
exchange. Law of equivalent. Look, but they do transmutation. They
Yeah.
you know, but they do transmutation. But the law equivalent exchange, because it plays out into everything, and it sometimes that law is all it look is at the opening thing. It's somebody's going to talk about it. Somebody, at some point it goes back to the law of equivalent exchange. And at first, like you, I watched the the original series, at least the start, on the few beginning episodes, because it doesn't start off like Brotherhood. And you know, at least with the beginning is like chronologically in the sense, where they're kids, and then it goes on from there in a sense. And so you see how it all starts, whereas you sort of have to piece it together in Brotherhood on what all happens. Like, you know what happens, but then you don't know the whole story, you know. But I think, you know, you have this genius in Edward, you know, from being a child genius in a sense, and all he wants to do is to use these chemical laws to bring his mother back. And lo and behold, he does far more than that, you know, thinking that, oh, I just, you know, give these elements and I can create a human.
Mm-hmm.
It don't work out.
Yeah.
It costs him more than he realizes, you know what I'm
Right,
talking
right,
about.
right.
And I found that to be interesting, but I also found it to be interesting when he goes to basically see the truth. That's all they say, the truth, you
Yeah.
know. And then there's a gate, you know, or doors, you know, large doors, and you know, and then he opens those doors and they suck him in, and then he sees all the knowledge and time and space, but it's like one big
Yeah.
beast.
Yeah, it's
And
like
it's
a
the
knowledge dump. It is like it's too much.
yeah, it's too much. And it's that door that keeps it from coming out. You know,
Mhm.
it reminds me of Chi was talking about how, you know, we can't take all that light. You know what I'm talking about? And
Yeah, 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 yeah,
because they'll kill you. It's the same thing with that, you know, with that truth. You know, them doors keep what's really there. There, you gonna get knowledge and all sorts of accumulated knowledge over time, but there's a beast right back there,
yeah.
you
Right.
know, in that hole you don't want to get entangled with,
Yeah.
you
It
know.
also reminded me of it was the scene in Underworld, the first one, where Celine attempts to well she successfully awakens Victor with her blood, but she doesn't know how to like organize the information in her blood. So it's like one big knowledge dump, and he just gets a bunch of random memories. You know, he doesn't get like any type of coherent um, information. You know, so it reminded me of that a little bit. You know, but like you said, it doesn't start chronologically. It actually starts with it starts with a chase, right? Everybody's chasing an alchemist, a state alchemist, um, the freezing alchemist or the freezer. And he basically has this plan to destroy Central, you know, the Central Command, because he realizes that the Führer King, you know, because of course we got a lot of German influences and yeah, it's got a
I
lot of
mean, from the uniforms to the
right.
names to,
Yeah. Even the
look,
character design. These are Europeans. These are Japanese people with blonde hair. You know?
nope, 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 nope. This
Yeah.
is, you know, Europeans, you know, of Aryan, they're the Aryan race. You know what I'm talking about? You know, you can tell. The only thing that's different is they're not goose stepping, and and they got on blue instead of black. You
Right.
know, mostly blue. You
Yeah.
know,
Blue's more friendly, I
yeah,
guess.
blue's well friendly. You know,
Yeah. So they're chasing the freezer around the city, and he's utilizing a philosopher's stone and a bunch of a fake philosopher's stone, but he's using a bunch of transmutation circles to try and destroy the central command, right? Because
mm-hmm.
the state alchemists, they're alchemists, but the state has learned to um, basically induct them into the military and weaponize their alchemy, you know, and they use it for waging war and going on military campaigns and stuff like that. But here it is now, many of their military campaigns are over, and a lot of previous state alchemists, like they know like a lot of the things that we did weren't justified, and a lot of them were just outright cruelty and slaughter. You know what I mean? So he was like, I'm gonna expose the Führer King and let everybody know, how evil he is. But of course, Edward and his younger brother Alphonse, who's in a suit of armor, which we'll get to later, he's basically they basically stop him along with Alex Weiss Armstrong, who was like just yeah. You said it.
About the muscles, man. About that flex.
Yeah, but you gotta love his integrity and earnestness. So the three of them, along with Colonel Roy Mustang and Fuhrer himself, King Bradley, they all basically put a stop to him. It's Bradley who stops him. He's real quick with the sword. He's the we get to that too. You don't mess with him. But yeah, they eventually stop him. But before he does get stopped, there's like a point where he gets captured and then he escapes and he goes to see Kimberly, right? Saul J. Kimberly, who's another ex officer in the military. He is basically super honest about the fact that he loves destruction and killing people. Like he takes
the Crimson
solace in
Alchemist.
chaos. Crimson Alchemist. So whereas the freezer uses this alchemy to control water, whereas to heat it, freeze it, expand it, whatever, Kimberly uses his to create explosions, right? So each alchemist, they sort of get a nickname based on their speciality. So you have the freezer, and you have the Crimson Alchemist, you have Roy Mustang, who's the colonel, also known as the Flame Alchemist, and of course you got Fullmetal Alchemist, who has a metal left arm and right leg, and we'll get to that too. There's a lot to get. It's a lot.
But it's like a play on words because the Fullmetal Alchemist should really be, Alphonse, because he's really full metal.
Yeah, everybody thinks the same thing. Like, you must be, they just overlook it.
Yeah.
You
must be,
Yeah. I think the metal is a sort of a play too with Bradley's first impression of Edward during his certification exam. He basically attacks the king,
with a spear.
With a spear, right? And he passes, but the king likes it. He likes his nerve, so that's why he called him Full Metal. Yeah. So just going on from where the freezer is, apprehended or whatever. Roy asks the boys, Edward and Alphonse, what are you gonna do next? What's your next clue to get your bodies back? And of course, in a couple of episodes, they flash back and you see how they lost their body / body parts. So, like Brother Lowe, like you were just saying, the law of equivalent exchange, in order to get something, you have to give something an equal value. But this deals with things that are on this side of the gate. You don't reach past that gate. You know what I mean? And Edward and Alphonse, they break the one taboo, which is you don't try to transmute humans. They even say intro. Yeah.
Because basically they're doing necromancy.
Right. And you don't have anything equivalent to offer in exchange for a human soul. So they try it. They gather all the ingredients, all the components that make up a human body, and they draw the transmutation circle. They break down the mother's corpse. Do they? No, I don't think they do. But they try to basically bring their mother back, and they put all of the ingredients in the middle of the circle. They do their thing, and something goes wrong. Like it goes all the way left. So instead of them mother, they see like a giant eyeball open in the middle, and these creepy little hands. I just call them creepy little hands. They creepy little hands. And
in a sense, before that door opens up, there's actually a being there just sitting down talking to Ed. He's just in white with like gray with a
right,
gray outline, but
yeah,
he's talking to him. You know,
yeah, because
saying this.
his consciousness automatically goes to that side, you know, and he's like he like gives you like an orientation of what's about to happen. You know, like, oh yeah, welcome. And it's like, who are you? And it's like, I'm the world. I am truth. I am God. I am all, and I am you.
Mm-hmm.
So you attempted to bring back your mother. What are you going to give in exchange? You know, and then he looks at his leg and he notices, you know, the leg is like, that's my leg. You know, and he looks down, his leg is missing. You know, and then he sort of snaps back and he notices like his leg is gone, he's bleeding, and Alphonse's entire body is just getting, you know, he getting joked. The creepy little hands, they're taking up everything he's got. You know, and he basically disintegrates in front of Edward. So, in a fit of desperation, I should say as well, before Edward snaps back to reality, Truth actually opens the door, his gate, and Edward is sucked into the gate, you know, and you know the whole scene that you would explain earlier goes through the gate. He gets shown all of this knowledge, and then when he comes back, Truth was like, "How was it?" And he was like, "I understand so much more, but I didn't get everything. You know, can you send me back?" And he was like, "No, you only paid enough toll for one trip." And he's like, that's when he noticed his leg was gone. So that was the toll that he paid for the knowledge, or to be exposed to the truth. Everybody's coming in. Peace, After Arlene. Peace, Emmanuel. Sister Deidre.
My
Peace,
name is Precious.
yeah, peace, Sovereign Eats. My name is Precious. Yes, on the radio, they had to make a sacrifice. You know, they had to give something to get something. So what Ed gave was his left leg. Alphonse gave his entire body. What's this? I keep switching up the legs too. Like, but Ed gives a leg, Alphonse gives his body. But in order to get his brother back, Edward, like in a fit of desperation, he finds the first thing, grabs the first thing he sees, which is the suit of armor that his father had. He had a couple of suits of armor, and one of them fell to the ground, and he drew like a seal on it, and he basically transmuted his brother's soul and attached it to the suit of armor. You know, so that's where his brother was stuck until they could find a way to get their bodies back. And the only way that they could do that is to get a philosopher's stone, which is an artifact that can allow them to like bypass the rules a little bit. You know, you don't need equivalent exchange if you have a philosopher's stone. So it's like a cheat code. And they're like, okay, that's the only thing that can help us to get our bodies back. So that's the journey, right? And that's how we start.
Yeah. Also, the toll that he pays to bring his brother back is he loses his arm.
Yeah, that's true. He loses an arm. So he loses an arm and a leg. You know, basically pays an arm and a leg for a little bit of truth and to keep his brother.
And Al, he only has parts of his memory.
Yeah.
Because he can't remember seeing the truth or anything. He only has bits and pieces of his memory.
Right. I was wondering if that was because only part of him came back. Like his body was still over there. But, you know, only part of him came back. And, I should also note that because they were trying to transmute their mother, you know, what happened to their mother? Did it work?
It didn't work.
Yes,
it was like a zombie-like thing with bones sticking out.
Yeah, that was Thriller. Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Also,
So
I would say the
they
same thing happened to Ed. He didn't have memories as well, but it's more subtle. Because like remember when Al had memories that even Ed didn't have. Like when it was like, remember when we fought for Winry? We fought to marry her.
um
and,
I
and
thought
Ed
he,
was
thought he was just ignoring him.
I thought he was just ignoring him too, but then he said he questioned them both. Remember y'all talked about y'all have memories of us fighting with me fight Ed and Al and me fighting for Renry. What did you tell him? And they both knew what she said, but he didn't. And he was like, y'all both have memories that I don't have. Or I can't remember.
Oh, all right. I don't know. Ed's so temperamental. You never know with him.
Yeah, he's so temperamental about his height. I mean, hey, we all, short, we short. You
Short jokes.
temperamental about your height, but you know. But I like how they put that milk in there because I was like, man, he could be the poster child for that dang milk commercial. Like, see, you may look at me right now, but I'm a Fullmetal Alchemist, and also I'm drinking milk. I'm gonna be tall. I'm gonna transmute my bones to get them strong and make them taller.
But
So don't look
this
down
is
on
what
me.
happens when you don't drink your milk, kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so Sister Deidre says, if they move under the premise that they will restore themselves, is it truly a sacrifice? If we sacrifice something, is it actually returned to us, or was it more of a barter? Um, that's a good question. I think with a sacrifice, though, you're making something sacred, so it should be intentional. And they did not know what was going to happen. It's like later on in the series, um, they 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 helped out with an enemy. Trying not to skip ahead, but it's a good example. They help out with an enemy, and after the enemy is defeated, the person who had basically forced them to help, they're like, well, why are you treating us with so much suspicion? We just helped you. And she was like, you were forced to help us. That doesn't count. It's sort of that sort of scenario. Like they made those sacrifices, but they didn't realize they were paying that toll. You know, so they wanted to go back, and the whole story for most of the characters is them trying to reach a state of what they think is equilibrium or balance. Like they did something now their life is out of balance, and they're trying to do something to like rebalance it, and they keep flip flopping, across that balancing point, and they're trying to take different actions, but the actions they take, they create other situations and scenarios that they're responsible for. And this happens with them trying to get their body back, where give them some milk. They're trying to, I shouldn't look at the comments. They're trying to go through this process where they get their body back, and they want to do it in the most righteous way possible. But not to skip ahead, they have to first be able to move again. So after the incident, Winry and her grandmother basically bring Ed over to their place. They stitch him up, and they're both automail technicians. So automail is, you see the metal arm and leg of Fullmetal of Ed, and he basically has this armored
Prosthetic.
cybernetic, like an armored prosthetic. I always think of him as a cyborg. He has this prosthetic arm, prosthetic leg, and he goes through this surgery or this procedure to get them surgically implanted. They gotta attach nerves and stuff like that. But you see him sitting there, just like he looks like out of it. He got this little nub here, he got a nub down here, and Colonel Mustang and Lieutenant Reed's Hawkeye, they come to Panako's place. Panako is Winry's grandmother, and they basically barge in. It's like we heard that there's a gifted young alchemist here, because they were studying before they attempted this. So word of their knowledge had already spread. These are two young geniuses. So they came to recruit him, but they didn't really expect to, you know, come and find that or that story. This is right afterwards. So they were Roy was basically brought up to speed on what happened, and he offers him a chance to find a solution by joining the military and utilizing their assets, which he accepts. And when they were leaving, Hawkeye says, "I've never seen someone who looks so defeated." And Roy was like, "That's what you saw? You need to look in his eyes. It was fire in those eyes, you know." And that's like one of Ed's defining traits. He's the more fiery of the two, whereas Alphonse is more cool and level-headed.
Yeah. Um. Well, like I told you yesterday, Al and Ed had that Ibeje energy. It seemed like, where, like I said, the little brother was the big brother, you know what I'm saying, and the more mature one, and and whatnot. And he was more cognizant of the situation that they were in, and he was protecting his big brother mostly, trying to make sure he's not getting killed, because basically he's the only one that can bring their bodies back, you know. And I saw, you could basically look at the state alchemists as super soldiers in a sense, with their gifts, and they're sent, to fight the Ishvalan and whatnot, basically to exterminate them, you know, and it's state sanctioned extermination. And when you watch, Brotherhood, you're gonna see a lot of politics come into play in this, and
Yeah,
then you realize that this has been in the making for years.
yeah.
This has been in the making for years.
This is like
You know what I'm
400
talking about?
years in the making.
Exactly. Um, but I also thought that not only did you have the law of equivalent exchange, but you also had the law of conservation of energy. You know, whereas energy was being moved from one place to the next in a sense, and they were basically playing with energy by transmuting things, into weapons and things like that, just manipulating energy that was probably already there. And I also thought that they were doing the same thing with their mother, trying to bring her back, trying to bring that spirit energy, that soul energy back into this body, or this vessel, but it couldn't be. That energy was already moved on, or gone on to something else. You sort of see that as, as they go through that, through those doors of the truth, and then they're grasping at their mother, and they can't reach her, they can't bring her back, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
and whatnot. So I also saw that law coming into play, especially with certain alchemists, like with Colonel Mustang, because he was messing with fire. He's still dealing with energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and he's
And
still
he's just,
smart.
yeah, and he
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. I always thought that was a cool way to, manifest it. Just it was real unique, but he had a unique weakness too. He couldn't do anything when his hands were wet.
yeah, for sure. Reading comments. Um, Sister Did say very similar to Avatar: Last Airbender, where they have inherent talent for manipulating matter and energy. Not everyone can be a bender, and not everyone can be an alchemist. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
We only want the special ones. Exactly.
The
We
people in the
only want
back.
the special ones. But I don't think the Colonel was the special one. He was just able to decipher what was that's going way ahead. I don't
Bring it
think
back.
he sort of got got put on.
Yeah. But he did get put on. Everybody got put on in this.
Yeah.
Like everybody could they could cite their teacher, you know, and you can even see in um the original anime, you know, even their teacher cited her teacher, you know, Izumi Curtis. Her teacher in that one was just so happened to be the bad guy. But yeah, everybody could cite their teacher. They could cite who helped them to get where they are, you know. That was sort of interesting in itself. No one just came up, you know. No one was just, well, I'm just as powerful. You know what I mean? Everybody had a certain acknowledgement that this power was something that I was tapping into, but it's not necessarily mine.
Mine.
Yeah. But so after Ed does his state certification and he gets his code name and everything, you know, they hear about something going on in the town of Lior, right? So they go to Lior and they see this preacher, Father Cornello, who's like, you know, he has his own religion, he has a following, and he's performing miracles, right? Miracles. And they see that he has this red gem in his ring, and they're like, okay, he's ignoring the laws of equivalent exchange because he takes a small flower and he transmutes it into something huge. And he's like, you can't do that. You know, you need some. You should only be able to create something of equal mass. You know, so he's ignoring those laws, and they're like, he must have a philosopher's stone. So they go to check on it, and while they're waiting to see him or while they're waiting to ask, they meet this girl, Rose, and basically she's a follower of the religion because she wants her boyfriend back. You know, her boyfriend died, and she was like, Father Canelo told me if I pray hard enough and long enough, then the great sun god Leto will bring my husband back to me or my boyfriend back to me. You know, and it turns into like a religious and philosophical conversation because Edward brings up the fact that human beings, like you could buy the ingredients for a human at a store, you know, but you can't do anything with the soul. You know, so you, no matter how hard you pray, you can't bring someone back to life. And she's like, you're wrong, you know. And he tells her the story of Icarus, you know, and how Icarus made rings of rock wax to fly out to the sun. But when he got too close, they just burned and melted, and he fell to the earth, you know. And he was talking about himself, basically, and himself and Al, how they tried the human transmutation and it backfired. So, and that's like a lesson too. We're like getting into not just religion or spirituality, but even into studies. Like I'm learning this just for this. You know, I'm going to church because I want a husband. You know, or I'm learning spirituality because I want to mate, or I don't want to be lonely. Like it's gonna backfire because you're gonna be so blinded by your desires that you're not gonna be looking at like what's right in front of you. Dude's like, he's grimy. Like you can't see.
You don't see it.
Yeah.
If you just pray hard enough,
Yeah.
you get that man. You get that 6-figure man. Okay. You know. You just pray hard enough and put some money in the tithes and offering. You know.
Yeah.
Or help with the building fund. You get it. He'll, you know, you just got to wait on him. Just wait on him, you know.
Just wait on him. Just come.
You know, he don't come when you want him to, but he's always right on time.
Oh man. Yeah, but that's how Cornello is, the whole thing, and he's like, they finally go to see him, and Cornello, they're like, there's a state alchemist here to see you. Because at first he's like, I don't want to see him. And then he's like, hold on, state alchemist, I can't have the military poking their nose around there, so I'm just gonna, send him away. So he tries to, doesn't work, and then he tries to kill him. He tries to kill him. He even tries to get Rose to kill him. Again, being blind, she almost did it. But they discover, got a prosthetic arm and everything. And he actually has like a chimera that he created, a lion mixed with some other creature. And they fight it out, he loses, and it's eventually found out that he was tricking everyone. But they made it so everyone else was aware that he was tricking everyone. Like they made him confess on a loudspeaker, basically. So he loses it, and he really out of desperation, he tries to kill them. He loses. Edward was like, first of all, I don't care about whatever you got going on here. I really don't care. I just want to know where you got that philosopher's stone from. And it falls and breaks, and he's like, it's supposed to be indestructible. So now he's really pissed off because I went through all of that for nothing. So he has to basically go and find another lead. And Rose was like distraught because she was like, that was my meal ticket. That's my meal ticket. You just can't. So he is like, you can't bring people back from the dead. He said he had to give us some straight medicine. Like, so she was like, what am I supposed to do now? Tell me what I'm supposed to do. Again, she didn't want to take responsibility for her life. So Ed is like, you got two good legs, get up and walk. So that was like,
move.
yeah. Yeah, man.
Radio had a
Think of the
question.
wise man while watching. Yeah.
I didn't.
I thought of him today, after last night's study session.
Yeah. What I did think about, I thought of the Tree of Life. I did think about that, especially with seeing them doors.
Yeah, because it's on the gates.
Exactly. So I did think about that one.
Yeah, man. So what happens next? They go from there. Oh, the saddest part of this whole show. We got to talk about Shao Tucker and his daughter Nina.
Oh my.
The tragedy. Yeah, but so basically they bring up the chimera that Father Leo had, and they're like, Mustang, I think. It's either Mustang or Mace Hughes, who's like the lieutenant colonel, and his loyalty to the colonel is basically the colonel wants to be the Fuhrer. And Lieutenant Colonel is like, okay, you keep rising through the ranks. I'll be right there pushing you from behind. So you go up one rank, I'll go up one rank. And I'll always be a lieutenant. So that way you always have someone you can trust within the military,
Mm-hmm.
So his whole thing is support. But he suggests that they go and see Shao Tucker, who is a state alchemist who deals with bioalchemy. He was reported to have successfully transmuted a chimera who could understand and utilize human speech. So everybody's like, that's impossible. So that's how he got his state certification, basically. That's what he used to get hired as a state alchemist. Because they get so many perks, they get a good salary, they work for the military. Um, so he has to do something else now because his review is coming up. So they go through a review, and if they don't come up with anything groundbreaking or if they don't show that their research has been fruitful, like they could be stripped of their title, basically fired. So before you got a state alchemy license or a state certification, Shao Tucker lived with his wife and daughter. His wife and daughter were basically all he had. You know, they didn't have too much money. They weren't all that rich, and he was getting desperate. So Al and Alphonse, I mean Ed and Alphonse, they come through. They meet him and his daughter Nina, giant dog Alexander, you know, and they get along with them. They almost form like a brother, a big brother bond, big brother, little sister bond with Nina.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime like they would study and then Nina would show us like come play with me, you know, so they would take a break, play with her and everything. They form a bond. So his state certification comes up, and as far as they know, his wife is no longer with him, and it was like 2 years. So the day comes, and he does it. You know, he passes, and they're like, "Oh wow, you actually did it!" You know. So the story with the first chimera is it only said 3 words. I want to die. That was what the first chimera said. So now this chimera, um, Shao was like, this person's name is Edward. And the chimera repeats, you know, that person, Edward. He's like, wow, that's cool. And then he's like, big brother Ed. You know, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
where's Nina? Where's Nina and Alexander? You know?
Big brother Ed. Big brother Ed.
So, you know, so where? Hold on. How long ago did your wife leave you? Say about 2 years ago. When did you first get the certification? About 2 years
About
ago.
2 years ago.
Like, come on. And what made it worse is in the English stuff, it was he ate. Like, you know he ate. Everybody know he ate. But, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, come on. You didn't traumatize or ruin that character for me. Because he was like, which he did have a point. He's like, Ed was like, you don't mess with people's lives like that. Because you basically took your daughter and a dog and put them together. You know, and we can't separate them. All because you were desperate. You know, so it's similar to Rose, but it's like on the scientific side of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. So you had that desperation for the religious desperation with Rose, but you had the scientific desperation with Tucker. You know, he was willing to do anything just to get what he wanted. But Ed was like, you don't mess with people's lives like that. And Shaw was like, who you is to tell me not to mess with nobody's lives if you around there trying to bring your mother back from the dead? Come on.
And you did the taboo.
Yeah, you did. You knew not to do that. It's like, so they Ed almost kills him. You know, he just keeps hitting him and hitting him. And Alphonse has to be a cool-headed one. Said, you keep hitting him, he's going to die. You know, so the military basically comes, they pick him up, and
they arrest him.
Yeah, they arrest him. He gets let out, I think, and or he's home with Nina and Alexander. I don't know how to match their names together. He's at home with Nina and Alexander.
Yeah, Nina Chimera.
Someone shows up, right, in some sunglasses. Always wearing sunglasses. Why is he always wearing sunglasses? Because he's this violent, and they're supposed to be dead. You know, so its violence have
red eyes,
red eyes, and melanated, and white hair. So you could spot one from a mile away. So he always wears these sunglasses, and he has this arm that that's covered in tattoos, alchemical symbols, which we'll get into. But for right now, you just need to know that alchemy has 3 steps. What is it? I know it's construction, deconstruction, and reconstruction, right? And basically, the constructed form is usually already there. You deconstruct it, and then you reconstruct it in what you want it to be. He stops at destruction. He doesn't like the reconstruction phase because, according to their faith, alchemy is like blasphemy. You know, it's like a perversion of what God intended. So he's already conflicted, you know. But he goes through it, and he's on a war path. Like anyone who's a state alchemist, y'all genocided my people, y'all killed my brother. You know, you dirty rat, you killed my brother. It's like Ninja Turtles. You dirty rat. So he basically is on a war path. Anyone who's a state alchemist, he's killing them on site. You know, it's like he's got a long list, and he doesn't want to stop until all of them are dead. So he kills Chow Tucker. He does like a mercy killing of Nina because he's like, there's nothing that can be done for you. And the next people on his list were Ed and Alphonse.
Mm-hmm.
He had already killed a brigadier general before that. And when he finds them, Ed is sort of still in the daze because he's depressed, you know, because of what he just saw. And, you know, skip ahead now, they're fighting and they get rescued by the colonel and everyone, Colonel Armstrong. And Scar is like, okay, I can't win this fight. So he retreats, you know. But in the process, Ed's arm is destroyed, you know, his prosthetic arm. And a good portion of Alphonse is destroyed, you know.
His arm, well, his arm or his leg, they always gonna get destroyed because he just goes and
Yeah, he's reckless with it.
he reckless. You know what I'm talking about.
So each alchemist represented a path on the tree of life. I don't know.
I wouldn't say that. I would say, you know, each alchemist was a conduit for different energies, you know, and you could just see the energy that they was manipulating. You know what I'm saying? They were a conduit for that. You know what I'm talking about? Whereas the homunculus, you know, was basically, or the homunculi, they were basically an archetypical energy for each sin. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
You
man.
know.
Yeah, so trying to go along because this, like, again, a lot happens in the show.
A lot happens.
A
A lot
lot.
happens. You know what I'm
I'm
talking
trying
about?
to figure out how to cover the whole thing. You know,
Well, it's like you could say, you know what I'm talking about, Al and Ed, you know, as they're looking for information and knowledge to bring their bodies back, you know, there's something like we were talking about. There's a conspiracy that's going on.
right.
You know what I'm talking about? And at first it's uh man, the number two. Man, now I'm forgetting his name. Um
The number two. Who's number two?
the one that was always about his daughter. My daughter's so
Oh,
cute.
that's Hughes, man. It's Hughes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mace Hughes. Now he goes on, you know, the investigation. You know, basically investigating this conspiracy. You know
Right.
what I'm talking about. So
And this,
while Ed and them, huh?
this is after Ed and Al like discover the secret to the Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know how the Philosopher's Stone is actually made with human souls. You know, um, that's how it's actually made. Um, and then while he's uncovering this conspiracy within basically the military, you know, he ends up, you know, getting killed, you
Right.
know, and he ends up getting killed by one of the homunculi. And the homunculi that kills him actually looks like Riza. Oh no. Was it Riza?
It was both of
No.
them. It was
Oh
both.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's a shapeshifter. So at first it shows up as Reza, and Hughes isn't fooled. So he's like, "Who are you?"
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "I'm Reza." You know, not Reza. Lieutenant Ross. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Lieutenant Ross, and he's like, you know, Lieutenant Ross has a mole on her right cheek. He's like, oh, you're observant, and then he puts it there, and it's like, what the hell? So he goes to pull out a knife, and right before he throws it, it changes into his wife, and which throws them off long enough for them to get shot.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in the middle of calling Roy as well to let him know what he found out.
Yeah. Well, Sister Deirdre says it's kind of like you can wield the power, but only within these parameters that benefits the state. Yeah. Even the education was overseen by the state, and they are tested based on what the state says is acceptable. The state even names them. Yeah, they have complete control. Complete control. You sort of got to, remember what's his motto after, what I'm talking about. So they have to have that complete control. So yeah, but even though they're in a state controlled environment, you 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 see that they sort of live kind of peaceful in a sense where everything's normal to them. You know what I'm saying? Everything's sort of normal. It's like everybody else, like there's fallings or whatnot. They know, it's nothing's normal. You know what I'm saying? In that sense, you know. But
Is it any
also,
different now?
yeah, it's no different now. It's really no difference now. But we get introduced to the first three homunculi we see is lust, envy, and gluttony. They're basically the first operatives, that we see working behind the scenes, and basically,
They're like the intelligence group.
exactly. And there's only a few, it's only them, what I'm saying? They don't need a bunch of people, but they move so secretly and so good, what I'm saying? And we also see that Al is not the only suit of armor, that's been made or soul that's been transmuted. We get introduced to what is it, Billy the Butcher, Billy the Chopper,
Barry the Chopper,
Barry the Chopper. I forget. And
the numbers were interesting too. It was
66. I remember that one.
Yeah, that's like they both add up to 12. Anyway, but yeah, you got Barry the Chopper, and you have 66, who's actually two brothers. One at the top and one at the bottom.
Exactly.
And they were tasked with guarding the laboratory. So basically, like Akilo said earlier, the Philosopher's Stone, Ed and Al find out the way to make it, but then they get disheartened because it's like the way to make it is with human souls. You need human life. That's the main ingredient. You need live humans. They ain't want no dead humans. You need some live humans for that. Wouldn't it be peaceful if you didn't know that you were cog in a machine? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically. And you can see that happening with even with a lot of people in this show, when they start to realize what was actually going on. That's when it starts getting that's when the life starts getting miserable. People start dying, start getting chased, you getting framed for murders, because we'll get to that. But the Philosopher's Stone and these researchers, they realized that they could sacrifice live humans. Well, let's just use prisoners, death row inmates. So that's what they did. They built a laboratory, field laboratory, right next to a prison for death row inmates. And they were basically using them to create Philosopher's Stones. And they were using those to send people to war. And that was used as a part of a larger plan to kill more people to make an even bigger philosopher's stone.
To kill the Schwallen.
Yeah, so the thing about the history of that country, which is called Amestris, is it was originally founded by this is a long history. We gotta do it like a time machine. Like we gotta do a flashback. Bear with me. We gotta Tarantino it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Go back in time to Hohenheim, right, and explain where he came from, because that actually explains where the whole country came from and the purpose of the country. So going back in time, this is like 400 years prior to the story. You have a slave by the name of Number 23. And he is the slave of a renowned alchemist, right? And this is in the city of Xerxes. Country, the whole country, Xerxes. And basically, his master uses him for an experiment where he uses some of his blood to create a homunculus, right? And it is commonly referred to, he refers to it as a dwarf and a flask. Small little shadowy figure with one huge eye and a creepy smile and flask.
I know.
A little creepy voice. He's a creep. But he basically he tells Hohenheim, he asked him, are you content with being a slave for the rest of your life? You don't have any education. Don't you have any desires? Don't you want to do anything? And he's like, I haven't really given it much thought, but I do know I would like to have a family one day, and he offers to teach him. He basically teaches him alchemy. He teaches him reading and writing. And Hohenheim gets promoted from like slave to assistant alchemist. And as he grows in knowledge, the homunculus is sort of like pulling strings behind the scenes. So eventually, the king of Xerxes is like, I want immortality. Like, can you make it happen? He's like, yeah, you make it happen. So he tells him how to do it. He says, first you need to make a circle around the whole country, right? So the king gets his servants right on it, and it takes like 10 years. In the meantime, Hohenheim is getting better at alchemy. And dwarf, even speaking of like Sister Deidre said, the dwarf names him. He names him von Hohenheim. Because formerly he didn't have a name. There's a wiki somewhere saying that his name was, I have it written down. This is a long name. But
Barbatus. What was it? Barbatus? No, the last name was Barbatus or something like that.
It was Theophrastus Bombastus von Horn. And Theophrastus was actually a philosopher, a Greek philosopher. He was like a contemporary to Aristotle. But as they do the transmutation circle thing, the king was instructed to stand at the center of the circle and he would get immortality, right? But he tricks the king. He has him stand near the circle, but Hohenheim and the dwarf is like, the king thinks he's at the circle. We at the circle, So this is sort of the dwarf's way of paying Hohenheim back for, spending time with them and actually talking to them and keeping them company. And you gave me the gift of life because I was born from your blood. So this is
I gave you a name. Tells him I gave you a name and I gave you an immortal body.
Right. So we even Stephen. So throughout through the process, all of the souls inside of Xerxes, they get taken from all of their bodies and transferred they get split. So it's like 1 million souls. They get 500,000 apiece, right? Which makes both of them effectively immortal. And the dwarf uses some of this immortality because it can't survive outside of the flask. It needs a container. So it makes a container for himself, but it makes an identical copy of Hohenheim, right? And this This shows you like a Luciferian and a Christ-like figure as well. You know, holding a hand like the Christ figure, and the homunculus is like a Luciferian type of figure, and he even names himself Father, right? So over the course of the next 400 years, he tries to do it again because he wants more power, because he wants to ascend to the throne of God, right? He basically wants to consume God. That's his master plan. So in order to contain a deity within his container, he needs a massive amount of energy. So what he does is he basically goes to a mistress. He teaches them alchemy, and he rules things behind the scenes. So it's not just Ishvar that's invaded. They actually start as a small country in the center of a large circle, and they spread out in the form of a circle because he's basically gathering human resources. So he's expanding into strategic points, and it's similar to what they did with the death row inmates, where there's a five-pointed what is it, pentagon? Is that what it's called?
Pentagram, pentagon.
Yeah,
There is a pentagon shape.
yeah. So there's like a pentagon shape for it, and you need blood at each point. But because it's such a large circle, you need a large amount of blood, which is why there's so many state-sanctioned killings. It's not because these are the enemy. It's because I need a lot of dead people in one place. You know, need a lot of dead people here and in four other places, right? So this is where Father's plan comes into play. Everybody is a cog in this big machine, like Sister Deidre said. They didn't realize like there was a bigger purpose for all of it because the Isvalan War, nobody knows that the homunculi were the ones who started it.
Start the war.
Right. Envy was like, and they keep calling him he, so I'll say he, but the voice is woman. The voice is a woman in the dub. I'll call him he. He's like super proud of the fact that all I needed to start this war and kill all of these people was a single bullet. You know, all he had to do was shoot a child, his fallen child, because Amestris had already invaded them and they were annexed, but there was still tension, you know, and all it took was that bullet to set things off, you know. So then Bradley came along, who's another homunculus, you know, his designation would be Wrath, right? So he issues the order to just do an ethnic cleansing, right? And he's like, just kill all these fathers. And they do, you know. A couple of people defected, like Armstrong. You know, his sister always gets on him for it. But he was like, I didn't sign up for the military to kill people, you know. And this is where Scar comes from, because Kimley basically sets off an explosion, and his brother, who's sort of like, I look at his brother like someone from Anu, where he's striving to understand multiple systems, and he's looking for a way to reconcile them in a way that makes sense, you know, because he wants there to be understanding.
Because, you know, we just say the Western kingdoms, it's alchemy. But if you go to Shing, it's alchemy.
Right.
So it's two different things. Where alchemy is for healing and whatnot, you know, alchemy is more militarily and fighting.
And they draw their energy from two different sources as well. Yeah, and little do they know, Father's like, he lives underneath the city, and he's just pulling all of the strings, getting this big circle
with all these pipes.
With all these pipes, you know. And another thing is, one of the other sins, sloth. Sloth is you gotta love sloth.
You gotta love sloth, because the simple fact that sloth, look, He's supposed to be slothful, and what he doing? He working more than hell. He just
Yeah, he working overtime. What a
working
pay.
overtime. He like, okay, I do this. Can I rest now? Okay.
Yeah, but his charge is to dig the circle, similar to what he had the citizens of Xerxes do. So he's digging this big circle, which takes him a couple of 100 years, nonstop. So I can understand why he's tired, what a pain, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So he's digging this hole. Lust, envy, and greed are sort of like intelligence gatherers, but they're also rounding up resources. And then you have Rob, who's
You
ruling
could
the.
say saboteurs as well.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, the saboteurs. They also like gluttony is excellent for cleanup. They don't. You don't
Cause he
leave
want to
nothing
eat
behind.
everything,
Yeah.
everything, everything.
Can I eat it?
Can
All
I
day.
eat him?
Yeah, all day. Then you have Wrath, who's like the head of state. You have Pride, who like he's like the overseer for all of them. So he's like the coordinator, and he makes sure everybody does what they're supposed to be doing. Um, but then we're missing one, right?
Greed.
Greed, and greed is like he's like the rebellious teenager. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can't tell me what to do, Dad.
In both, you want to say in both lives.
Yeah, both lives, you know. And I know we're jumping around, but if we did this chronologically, we'd be here
Yeah, we'll be here
all.
all night.
Yeah, right. So greed is like greed is doing his own thing. He wants what he wants. He's greedy. He's like, I want everything. I'm greedy, avaricious. And like you had mentioned earlier with the skills, you have Lust, who has what she calls an ultimate spear. She can turn her fingers into like blades and extend them. Greed has like an ultimate shield. So he can coat himself in a very hard layer of, I want to say carbon.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a very
I
hard
would say
layer
Harvard.
of, yeah, carbon, and he's got a different personality. Like he's very independent, and because he's
Mm-hmm.
independent, he's not really bogged down with views of humans like, oh, all of y'all are beneath me and I'm not gonna get near you. Like he still thinks of humans as frail and weak compared to him, but he doesn't look down on them because of it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have any qualms about forming relationships, and like he's one of the few ones that do it. The rest of them are just like down
He
the road.
actually has friends.
Yeah, he actually has friends, you know, but he eventually gets defeated by Wrath, you know, under the guise of Fuhrer King Bradley. So Wrath comes through, he captures him, he kills Homegirl inside of Alphonse. That's like Wrath, you tweak it. Yeah, do that.
Mm-hmm.
But he kills Homegirl inside of Alphonse, and he takes him to Father, and he basically melts his body down in a forgery so he can get the Philosopher's Stone back from him and create a new vessel. Because all of these homunculi are created from the souls of the people from Xerxes, but they were
Mm-hmm.
distilled um, distilled energies from him. All of his wrath went into wrath, all of his lust went into lust. And he thought that by separating these aspects from himself, he can make himself superior to humans.
Yeah. Even Honenheim calls him on that. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, what you really wanted was a family.
Right,
That's why you created all these homunculi and you had them call you father.
right.
Because that's what you really
And
wanted.
that's what Hohenheim really wanted. And he had Hohenheim's blood. You were made for
Mm-hmm.
me, so you could only want what I want.
Yeah,
That,
exactly.
that's how Hohenheim could stay a step ahead of him, too, because he wasn't as unpredictable as he liked to think. He was just dirty. And
Yeah. He always looked bored, like this bored. This bores me look. He
yeah,
always said that this bores me look. You know what I'm saying? And he stayed, like I say, stayed underground where Honenheim, he was always traveling.
we need a wrench. Wrench in the chat. Security.
came back.
Yeah,
No
they
problem.
came back.
Got you. Bots. Bots. But you have that, but you see how like I say, the bigger conspiracy is coming into play. And the reason why it all happens is because the higher ups are all promised immortality.
Right.
So that's what they're in it for. They're in it for, oh, we're in it for the immortality.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll recruit you, just say, man, you get with us, you're promised immortality.
Yeah.
So that's the Luciferian deal with it, where it's like, okay, you work for me, I'll give you immortality. You know what I'm saying? Not telling you what's the real cost for all of it. You know what I'm saying? In a sense, like we'll have immortal soldiers, but then you see those immortal soldiers are made with human souls, and they don't listen to nobody.
Oh, and here it is. They thinking, oh, we'll have immortal soldiers and we'll have control. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, couple of episodes later, old boy is in a corner, shooting them. They're supposed to listen to me.
Yeah, they're supposed to listen to me, and they ain't listening to him. That's right. I'm your father. They end up killing him. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And like I said, there's more conspiracy. There's conspiracy within conspiracy, because even Mustang, even though he's trying to stop the conspiracy, he has a conspiracy of his own by trying to put himself into power.
Right. And he has this. I gotta say, he has a really good unit with him, because nobody turned on him. I was like, this is one of the first times I saw a show where nobody really turned on, like nobody betrayed him or turned on him or nothing like that. Hawkeye's a ride or die. Like that's the type of sister you need on your team.
So the sacrifice is freedom from the state. Is that the sacrifice?
It could be if you're attached to the state.
Yeah, that would be. I would also probably say, it can't be the sacrifice, because of the simple fact that that's not really what the people want.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go along. It seemed like they'll go along with anything. You know what I'm saying? And you sort of see that when even in the military, when like Mrs. Bradley, the Fuhrer's wife, she breaks the news that the military were trying to kill her. And basically it was a state sanctioned hit. They didn't care that she was the Fuhrer's wife,
Right.
And she breaks it on the radio, and you're like, what? That can't be it. But then you have some troops, band together because they see that these immortal models are just monsters trying to kill everybody, because they were supposed to get Briggs. General Briggs, actually, the major sister, big sister.
Armstrong, yeah. Olivia.
Yeah, Major Armstrong's sister, big sister. And they get some on their side, but as soon as the Fuhrer shows up, oh, now everybody want to be on the Fuhrer side.
Yo, I don't want to spoil it, but because I know you got that point. But Bradley shows out when he shows up. Like, they call him Ralph for a reason. I'll say that.
He is.
But
he's so calm.
Right.
He's so calm with his wrath, though.
He's calm to a point. Like, you're gonna see him lose it yet. But when he loses it, like, you can see it. But the interesting thing about the homunculi is they have like a point of correspondence, right? The law of correspondence is very big in this. A lot of hermetic principles play out in this show, but correspondence is one of the ones where, as above, so below. So you have these 7 deadly sins, but you also have them being portrayed very very blatantly by the main cast, right? It's not like anyone's right or wrong. It's just everybody's going about trying to do their own thing, and they're trying to get what they want to get. Everyone has their own motivation and their justification for it. You can even see near the end, um, Father has his own justification, and he has his plea, like he pleads his case as well, So everybody has what they want, and they go after what they want, and they try to go after it in an unrighteous way. It creates an imbalance, and now they're responsible for the imbalance that they just created, and you can see that with Edward. Um, he basically has pride, right? His hubris is what basically cost him, and Alphonse goes in along with him. That's big bro.
That's big bro.
I want to see mom. So and even he has his issues with avarice, but it's just the interactions that they have with the different homunculi, like the showdown, the final showdown. And when you look at how each of the homunculi are actually destroyed, you see that Colonel Mustang, who has a lust for power, kills lust, and you have Scar, who's basically all about revenge and wrath. He has to go through his own arc where he forgives the people of Amestris, and he starts working alongside them. So now the one who is wrathful and learned forgiveness, he kills wrath. So it's like they have to go through their own character arc, their own story arc, before they actually overcome certain obstacles. Not all dying that way, like, but the homunculi still die in a very like ironic way, like Envy commits suicide because
he's like, what? Y'all supposed to hate each other. You supposed to be fighting him. You supposed to be fighting him. You supposed to fight him. What is wrong with y'all? Y'all supposed to be enemies. And here y'all is together.
That's how he gets his way. He gets his way by making other people hate other people.
Yeah, and Ed calls him on that, but like, you're really jealous of humans,
right?
Yeah, and he's this little lizard-like thing. Like, get off me! Get off me! Like, how dare this dang on pipsqueak tell me what I'm jealous of?
Yeah, man.
But he had the coolest death. It's like he was just like because he literally gets and destroys his own philosopher's stone.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's a lot. It's too much. The more I remember, like, we didn't even touch on Ling and Greed.
Yeah.
Ling from the Empire of Shing. You have like some political intrigue, because he's a prince, and then you have Mei Chang. I think it was Ling Yao and Mei Chang. So Mei Chang is from the Chang clan, and then Ling Yao is from the Yao clan.
Okay. And they're both looking for sorcerer stones.
Right, because they're both in the succession line, right? They're both in this line of succession to go to the throne. And they're both like, well, if I could get a philosopher's stone,
I could save my clan.
Yeah, I could save my clan. So there's that thing. There's land files, devotion. We can get into that. Oh man,
it's a lot. It's so much.
With a series like this, I don't know if it's better if it was two-parter. Like, you can gloss over the surface of it. We didn't get into the symbols. I didn't realize I just looked into it. I didn't realize the symbol that is on Ed's jacket, his red jacket. It's called Flamel's cross, right? And it's based on this supposed alchemist. Like, he was posthumously dubbed an alchemist from like the 1300s, late 1300s, early 1400s. He's from Paris, right? So he and his wife, Paranel, I think that's his name, her name. Like they both got streets named after them in Paris,
Mm-hmm.
and they were both. Um, there were claims that they were both well-known alchemists. Flamel found the Philosopher's Stone, or he had a Philosopher's Stone, and he also had the Elixir of Life. So he authored a
Oh.
book like 200 years after his supposed death. But I brought those two up because in the original anime, they didn't have the end of the story, so they made their own end of the story. And in that story, Hohenheim was still immortal, but it was a different type of immortality. So I mentioned earlier
Mm.
that in that story, uh, Izumi Curtis, who was the teacher of Ed and Alphonse, her teacher was actually a woman called Dante, right? And Dante was Hohenheim's ex-lover. So they both had this love affair where they were both creating philosopher's stones, and they were jumping from one body to the next, right, in order to live forever. So here you have like husband and wife alchemists who who are able to live forever. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have Flamel's cross. It's like there's probably inspiration there somewhere, But it's like a lot of little different things, a lot of symbols that you could dig into, a lot of character arcs you could dig into,
Yeah.
the themes of like war and genocide, forgiveness, ethnic cleansing, conspiracy, um, military coup d'etats, like it's
Yeah.
so many different aspects of these stories, the cybernetics, like so many things you could talk about. You could be up all
Exactly.
day,
All day, man.
but it just taught, and it's 64 episodes, so you got to give the creator props. This was created by Hiromu Arakawa, and she did a really excellent job with like really tight storytelling because at no point do you want to put this thing down
I
when
know.
you're done.
Especially when they get to the comedy.
Yeah,
Like, Colonel, I just got this girlfriend. Dump her.
dump
Every time Envy sees Ed calls him Pipsqueak, who you calling Pipsqueak? That's 5 times you can call me
Yeah, you
Pipsqueak.
come. Yeah, and you can see like they're really obedient to their nature though.
Mm-hmm.
With like with Envy, like he will not fight Ed. He could, but he
Yeah.
refuses to. The same part of the plan. Stick to the plan. You know, um, Even with their teacher having gone through the same experience that they did, because she had, I think she had a miscarriage,
Yeah, she did.
and she tried to bring the baby back. You know, and her price that she paid was she lost the ability to give birth because she gave up some of her internal organs. So she's constantly sick. She can't give birth, but she saw the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the same clapping motion that you see Edward doing, she does it too in order to transmute. And they see it when they're younger. And they're like, teacher, how come you don't have to draw a matrix in order to transmute? And she's like, well, if you think about it, I am the matrix. You know, and it's like a slick way of like getting them off the set because she saw the truth. That's why she knows she's the matrix. You know what I mean? So they go through that, and there's a few other people. All of these people who have seen the truth are deemed as worthy sacrifices by Father. So these are the human sacrifices that he's going to use to basically create this philosopher's stone. He's going to turn them into philosopher's stone.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Izumi Curtis, you have Ed and Alphonse, and you also have
Honenheim,
Hohenheim, right? Is the other one, but they need a
Dr.
fifth,
Marco.
right? Dr. Marco as well, and they need another one. The other one they had to make themselves, so they actually forced Roy Mustang to open up the gate, and his price to pay was his eyesight, right? So someone who has a vision for the future, he loses his vision. Talk about irony, right?
For sure.
So he has to use Hawkeye to basically see now, but he can now transmute in a similar way. So they're all fighting Father now, who's basically become a deity. And Hohenheim has spent the better part of a couple hundred years trying to reverse the circle that like he's trying to counteract the circle that Father has put into place. So he's going out and on Life Global Ministry. Yeah, alchemy comes with a price. That's the truth. That truth showed the brother when he had to barter his leg with some knowledge of transmutation. It's an ongoing theme of personal sacrifice. Right. Yeah. So and it's something that truth usually hints at, but he wants you to get it. Right? He doesn't like tell you outright like this is what it is. He's like, you gotta really learn. Like that's how you're gonna grow. So they transmute they barter these things for knowledge, but a lot of them didn't go there looking for knowledge. A lot of them went there looking for what they desire, you know, and they were given knowledge, and they come out on the other side still looking for what they desire, you know. So it's like you still got to go through some stuff to learn the value of this knowledge, you know, that you're looking for. You know, that's the interesting aspect of it, you know. So Hohenheim goes around and he's trying to counteract the circle. And in later episodes, like close to the end, you will see that he's actually learned all of the names of the souls that were trapped inside of him. And it's like, it's over 5,000. It's like over 5,000. Dragon Ball is a reference. But
500,000. 500,000.
Over 500,000, 300 and something.
Yeah.
You know, but he learns all of their names individually, and he was able to differentiate their voices, even though it's like how they animate it is like a torrent of chaos and agony. Like he actually learns them, you know, and he spreads them all over the country at different points, and he creates his own circle, right? But he only marks the points of the circle. So Father's like, yeah, but you ain't drawn no circle. You know, I got my people working for me. He made my circle. Where's your circle? And this was happening during an eclipse. So he actually used the shadow of the moon as his circle. And that kicks off the transmutation. So sovereign needs is true. I thought that even the truth of having to give up body parts for what they desire would be a deterrent or sober them up at least. Yeah, but then they just desire to have that equilibrium back.
Exactly.
What am I gonna do about my legs, Charlie Murphy? Yeah, man. So yeah, so now like take Ed and Alphonse, they were going even harder now, trying to like they were looking for a bypass or a workaround. That's why they wanted that philosopher's stone so bad. Until they realized what it took, and they had to stop. You know, they had to stop. Like, do we really want that?
Mm-hmm.
And it became less about getting their bodies back and more about trying to figure out what's going on in this conspiracy
and how we can save everybody.
Right. You know, and at the end of it all, but I'm gonna spoil it anyway. At the end of it all, they beat Father, you know, and in order to get Al back, because in order to protect Edward, his arm is destroyed, right? During the fight with Father. Father's looking around like, because Hohenheim did this thing. And like I said, the moon was the circle. So shadow from the moon activated the circle that Hohenheim was creating these couple of hundred of years. And that actually reversed what it reversed what Father did because he successfully consumed the deity that is known as God, right? Or what they call God. But he did so much work to make sure his container was strong enough that he could actually contain it. So what Hornheim did was weaken his container. So now he couldn't hold it in and it made him unstable. And he was slowly losing power as they fought. So um, all he had was the people from Xerxes because he actually successfully absorbed everyone in Amestris. That's what the big circle was for. But it only lasts like a minute. He's God for 1 minute. So you work 400 years to be God for 1 minute. And then after that, your time just starts ticking. So all he has is the little bit of power he started out with. And that eventually starts getting worn away because everyone's attacking him nonstop. And he starts getting weaker and weaker. And he starts getting desperate. And it reminds me of Harmony from the 14 Keys, starts looking for energy from outside sources because he could never sustain energy in the first place. All he did was steal. Right, man? All he did was steal energy, and now he can't create no energy. So he's losing a little bit of energy he was leveraging. And that causes him to like go into this ravenous hunger. Like he's like a zombie, like, stone, give me a stone. And the stones you looking for, bro? I got some rocks right here.
I got a pocket full of stones. Okay.
Yeah, Father's a crackhead. Yeah, so he looks at Edward. Edward is pinned to a wall. His arm is like, he has like rebar sticking out of his one good arm. The automail arm is, destroyed. And Alphonse is watching Father walk towards him. So he's like, okay, if my brother was able to give up his arm in order to put me in the armor, then I should be able to do the opposite and get him his arm back. So that's what Al does. So he actually opens the gate and he gives Ed his arm back, and he goes back into behind his own gate, and his soul like goes back to his body. So like he and his body have like a conversation. He's like, "Well, we gotta rely on brother now," So the armor disappears and it's just Ed now, and then Alphonse now on the other side. And meanwhile, Ed gets his arm back, and I want to use clean language. He beats up Father, beats him up badly, and Father eventually tries to absorb greed because that's like another stone. Like, be a good son and give your father some stones. It's like, crackhead. Straight up crackhead. So he basically gets some of it, but what greed does is he turns Father's body into like a very brittle form of carbon. Edward punches a hole in his stomach, and all of the Xerxes souls now get released. So now he's back to his dwarf in the flask status, and he can't survive without a container. So he basically goes back to where he came from. So he has to have his own confrontation with truth. And he's like, well, what did I do wrong? I just wanted to understand the knowledge of this world. I just wanted to be free. And truth is like you were incapable of believing in yourself, and it's like you're gonna experience the despair of the people who try to become God or who try to usurp that power. So he's basically pulled into the gate, and that's the last we hear of him. But now we got another conundrum because how do we get out? This is like we back to square one. How do we get out back? So Edward is like, well, what do I do? So his father basically, Lang offers himself out. It's like, well, you could take my life in exchange for his. Versus like you could use our philosopher's stone, and Ed is like, no, yeah, I already promised we wouldn't do that. And he's like, well, take my life. He's like, no, that ain't gonna happen. Hohenheim is like, well, I'll give my life. You know, let me be a father for once in my life. You know, so Ed basically cusses him out. But in the process, he calls him his father for the first time. So it's like a closure thing happens. But Edward comes up with the idea, well, I'll just exchange my alchemy. So I won't be able to perform alchemy anymore, but in exchange, I'll get my brother back. So that was the route that he went, and it works. So what he does is he destroys his own gate. At the end, you can hear Truth like congratulating him, like you actually answered correctly. You know, you got it right. And as he's telling him this, his voice starts changing into Edward's voice, right? Because it's like a theme in the show that everyone has their own gate, but they have their own like representative of God as well, or their own representative of truth. So it always looks like them. You know, it's the same when the homunculus, when Father was there, you know, he was in his back to his little spherical form, but the truth was also in that spherical form. You know what I mean? So it always reflects what you are. You know, so Truth is like, yeah, the back door is right over there. And he points behind him and he sees Alphonse, you know. So they get out, Colonel Mustang Secure, you know, Ed and Winry get married.
Married, yeah.
Yeah, you know, all that good stuff. But yeah, man, you have all of these themes of sacrifice, 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 but obedience, right? That's the other part of it. Like, do not transmute humans. You know what I mean?
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Don't touch it.
Yeah. So what about that part? But you have all of these laws that they obey, and when they stray from those laws, you know, you have different things happening, and it's not just happening on the side of the people from Amestris, because Scar has to go through his own dilemma. Scar is basically, you know, he's Ishvalan, and they have Ishval as their god. And according to their teaching, so alchemy is blasphemy. But here it is now. His brother was studying alchemy. He's studying two forms of alchemy, you know, alchemy and alchemy, and he's trying to put them together and try. But it's not from a place of I want power. It is a place of I want understanding.
Yeah.
You know, and he had these tattoos on his arms, and he basically he put all his research on his arms, like the fruits of his research. And Scar, for the longest time, he would use his hands in a certain way where he would only destroy. But what wasn't like what you also find out like a little later on is one of his arms isn't his arm; it's his brother's arm. You know, because his arm was destroyed when Kimberly attacked. You know, so his brother's arm is stitched onto his arm. You know, I think his brother does it as he's dying. You know, he gives him his arm, and he might have given him both of his arms.
I just saw one stitch, so
yeah. But as he's fighting Bradley, he comes to the resolution that I can't just keep destroying. You know, I can't just keep. I've been taking life from day one. From y'all see me with my yellow jacket, my sunglasses. I wear my sunglasses at night. That's me in the corner losing my religion. Like, I've been killing people, so it's time to create something for a change. You know, and Bradley mocks him. Like he chastises him for it, because he was like, I thought that was against your people's religion. I thought that was against what your God wanted. You know, but eventually, by Eclipse Ex Machina, you know, Bradley gets blinded when the sun starts coming out, because he has his sword like right here, getting ready to stab him. And as he's taunting him, he's like, you know, maybe throughout all that despair and all of that warfare and all that loss, in the depths of your heart, you really started to think that there was no God. Right as he says that, a little glimmer of light peeks from behind the eclipse, bounces off the sword, blinds him, and that's how Scar, I want to say beats him, but it's more of a draw. And Bradley beats up.
Got you.
Yeah, man. But it's a lot of themes in it, even with his character arc. Like when Mustang was gonna kill Envy, he's like, everybody's like, don't kill him,
don't kill him.
He's like, listen, do what you want. He's like, what? He's like, I can't say nothing. You see what
I was on the road for revenge. Who am I to tell you not to do it? I'm staying out of it.
Right. But I will say this: I fear for this country if its ruler is so caught up in his own emotions. If you're so consumed by vengeance, what does that mean for the country that you're going to be ruling?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, putting the Frankenstein, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, but I don't know. This is something that deserves like a series. Just step by step, line by line, like we do in Shimano. Like that's how much content is packed into.
It's packed into
it. So yeah, it's a good show.
Join us next strong. Join us next strong when we're gonna talk about Drishyam, which is it's an Indian movie on Netflix. We're gonna get into family covering and Bush justice and whatnot, you know what I'm talking about? And we gonna get into it like that, you know what I'm talking about? So give thanks.
Drishyam?
Yeah, Drishyam.
Okay. All right, got you.
Yeah. So that's what we're gonna get into, and don't forget we do get Shema tomorrow, so come out for that. But give thanks to everybody, and give thanks.
Coming through.
I know, right? Because it's just so much. So, but we gonna get into it. You know what I'm talking about, next strong, and we gonna come with it again. So
yeah, right. I definitely say too, if you haven't gotten a chance to finish Fullmetal Alchemist, I'd say finish it. Take your time. Yeah. No matter how many times I watch it, it's something different. It's one of those you can never step in the same river twice type of shows. It's a lot there for you to pick up on.
For sure, bro. So we gonna get on out of here with it, you know what I'm saying? So give thanks, and we'll see y'all next strong. So,
yeah, see y'all tomorrow.
Well, that's true. Well, for this show. For this one, we'll see you
tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. You always come with it.
Yeah, for sure, babe, for sure. So we will see you tomorrow. So okay. Before we look, here comes Sister Deirdre. I was gonna wait, but since y'all want y'all shine, get shine on or whatever. Next month, it will be nothing but sisters. Sisters are doing it for themselves, standing on their own 2 feet, doing the breakdowns. They won't look, because one of them already want you to know that she's in charge of the girls. So they'll be doing all of June next month. I will be on break, but next month it's gonna be all sisters giving breakdowns on many different movies, and they gonna have fun, But yeah, thank you, Sister Deirdre. Yeah. I was gonna say it, but I was just gonna wait, But yeah, I'll say it now. You want everybody to know. I want it to be a surprise, but no. You just had to do your thing, huh?
Yeah, look at that. Cackle City. Yeah, I can hear Cackle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it is what it is. They doing it. Oh, I was just talking about the first Thursday. Whatever. You just want. You just want.
I guess I know which Thursday you doing.
Yeah, I know which Thursday you doing, but the first Thursday of the June month, they will be doing the breakdowns. You know, so now you know because they wanted you.
I thought it was the whole month of June. I know you had a month off.
Yeah, they doing the whole month. They doing the whole month.
Talking about first Thursday.
She talking about the first Thursday, which you would do the or we would do the anime breakdowns.
Right.
They taking out you. they assisting. We gonna say taking over. We just say they. They going up to bat. You know, pitching whatever. You know. Substitution. Substitution. Shadow Claw Jutsu. You know, we bringing out a substitution, a trade, and they going in.
It's the whole all right, the whole month, partner. Right,
yeah, see, it's the whole month. See, the whole month. See, there they go, girl games.
All day.
All day. They want you to know. So yeah, they the whole month, partner. You know, ain't gonna be banging on y'all. Y'all just gonna be sitting back with my popcorn. Sit on the wall. Look at
advertising ahead of time. Look at that.
Exactly. Advertising ahead of time. You know.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it sure ain't, you know. So that's what reflecting the example you've been so gracious to shine. Yeah, well, you know, go right ahead. I'm go right ahead. I will push y'all out there. Damn. I'm especially gonna push Sister Ninja. She wants to be the front runner. Go right ahead.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it.
So yeah, so that's what we're doing. So, but give thanks everybody, and we will see y'all next strong.
All
so
right.
peace.
Peace.